What is up guys, welcome back to another Tech Spaces Cubing video. Today we will be taking a look at the GAN16 Maglev MAX. Right, so I have already used the GAN16 for a couple weeks. This version is the one that I got from the GAN offline Shanghai store. This cube has been tensioned and lubed to the way I like it, and I've done well over 1,000 solves on this cube. So the plan for this video is I'm going to first do a quick unboxing of this brand new GAN16. I'm going to take a look at the stock cube and give my impressions on the stock version of this cube. Then I'll take a look at what I did to this cube and compare these two. And then I'll give my final review. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So this is the box of the GAN16 Maglev MAX. So you can see it's very similar to the GAN15 box, except it has a darker hue on the top. You can see that this GAN16 badge is not centered, but that's no matter. Let's go ahead and unbox it. This cube will retail for $85 in the US and in foreign stores, but I got this for $65 in China. So the first thing that you'll see when you open the box is our nice GAN16 identification card. Right, next up we have our cube and our accessories box. So first let's take a look at our accessories box. Inside here we have our updated adjustment tool. So we have our GAN fire hydrant in the bottom here. So we have our core magnet remover and our axis distance adjustment, as well as our maglev adjustment. And then on the top of this little handy carrying case is our center cap remover. Now this center cap remover is different from the GAN14 Pro and GAN15 center cap remover. The prongs are actually a bit shorter on the GAN16. So this breaks compatibility with the old center caps. However, this is not really that big of an issue, since the center caps can now be removed with your fingernail. Alright, so next up we have our black GAN bag. This bag was previously reserved for GAN's top-of-the-line 3x3 flagship smart cubes. However, it is now available in the GAN16 Maglev MAX. Then at last we have our GAN16 Maglev manual. And of course, as always, I'll have this manual linked in the description below, in case you want to take a look. So on this side we have the Chinese version. On the back we have our English version. Alright, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the cube. It uses the same case as the GAN15. Bottom we have our replaceable corner core magnets. So the green ones are a bit stronger and the blue ones are a bit weaker. The ones pre-installed here are white colored, and that's the medium setting. So the first thing you notice when you pick it up, other than the fact that it's really light, is the center skirt. Now previous GAN cubes never had center skirts. For example, this is the GAN14. You can see that there is a skirt around the center. And GAN calls this center design the UFO shape. And this makes the piece design more similar to Moyu cubes. Alright, let's go through some stock turns here. So out of the box, this cube is lubed very well. You can really feel the lube moving around. But after like 5 or 10 solves, the lube starts breaking in. And I'm not sure if it's because of the lube that they used or the piece design, but the lube breaks in really, really quickly and it becomes super fast. So if you want to keep this nice and controllable like it is out of the box, you need to use something heavier. Now I personally like to use XMT10, which is technically a fast lube, but it is also really high viscosity. So it does do some work in slowing the cube down. When you turn the cube, it feels really crisp and crunchy. You can really feel the hard plastic that GAN likes to use. So it has this distinct GAN feel, but the turning is also quite rounded, which is really similar to the Super Weilong V2 or the GAN or the Weilong 11. So I have the Super Weilong right here. You can really feel that each cut has a really round feeling. However, the Super Weilong V2 and the Weilong V11 are both very, very dampened and smooth in terms of the actual hand feel. However, on the GAN16, plastic is very clacky and hard, which is similar to old GAN cubes, so it retains the same GAN characteristics while having that nice rounded feel. Turning is a lot more clear on this cube. So in my time with this cube, I've described the feeling as the GAN14 Pro and the Super Weilong V2 combined. So the GAN14 Pro has a similar crisp and crunchy turn. You can really feel the hard plastic on this cube. And the Super Weilong V2 has the very nice rounded turning feel. the rounded corner cuts, which the GAN16 also replicates. Okay, so next, let's go ahead and test corner cutting. So forward corner cutting, 45 degrees, no problem. Little bit of resistance past 45 degrees, but it still cuts it no problem. Of course, the smaller cuts are very nice and smooth. Let's go ahead and test reverse. Line to line, no problem. Very, very nice and smooth. Past line to line, it works, but there is some resistance. And a little bit more past that, there is no reverse corner cutting, which is to be expected. And I don't remember GAN corner cutting being this good since the XS. So this is definitely something to commend GAN on. This is a really nice cube in terms of performance. Alrighty, so next let's go ahead and take apart the cube and take a look at the piece design. When you take apart the cube, you can really see the UFO shaped center. And this characteristic is very similar to Moyu's modern cubes. For example, Super Weilong V2 has a very similar center skirt. However, when you compare it to the GAN15, which is GAN's previous flagship, you can see that the centers are very nice and boxed off like this. So what the center skirt does is it provides more stability since there's another track for the pieces to sit on. If you compare the pieces of the GAN15 to the GAN16, you'll see that there is an extra ridge on the top. This ridge right here adapts to the center skirt. So there is another track right here for the center skirt to sit on, as compared to the GAN15, which does not have this extra ridge. When you compare the corners to each other, you'll see that the stock is a lot longer on the GAN16, and there's less material on the piece surfaces. And again, this is to accommodate the larger center skirt. Additionally to that, we also have the corner core magnet. And as you can see that this time it is encased in plastic, whereas on the 15, you can see that the magnet is just exposed right there. And this change probably has no performance difference other than just increasing durability. And other than that, you can see that GAN still has the same signature honeycomb pattern that they've been using since the SM. You also have the same weight reduction holes. So when you compare the cores together, you can see that there really is no difference in terms of the plastic core. However, they did change the center cap design. So on the center cap, there are two protrusions on two opposite sides, and there are no protrusions on two sides. So you want to find the side with no protrusions, and you want to stick your fingernail inside, and then you can just pry up like GAN's old center caps. It should just come right out. You can really see what I'm talking about when I hold it up close. There is no protrusion right here, but there is a bit of a protrusion right here. So you want to stick your fingernail into this spot. Now if we take a look at this adjustment system, you can see that there are 6 axis distance adjustments, and there are 12 tension or maglev adjustments. And you can see that there's also a screw right here. Put up a picture on screen. But you can see highlighted in green is the screw, and highlighted in red is the rest of the core stock. So you can see that the screw only goes through a part of the core stock, and the only purpose of the screw seems to be holding the GES together. For example, on the GAN15, there is a little plastic nubbin right here, and you can press down and twist, and the entire GES module comes right out. So I'm assuming that the screw's only purpose on the GAN16 is to hold this GES system together. So it replaces the nubbin on the GAN15. And I think the only reason why they did this is to prevent accidental removal of the GES system. Also, what's interesting is that the manual makes no mention about the screw. So I'm assuming that you probably should not adjust that. Alright, so during my testing, I've gone through the highest and the lowest tensions and also axis distance. And I can confirm that there are a wide range of both axis distance adjustments and tension adjustments. So the loose tensions are very loose, while the high tensions are very tight. And if you buy this cube, you can definitely find a setting that suits you. So one thing that concerned me when I first got this cube is the default tensions. So it is already on setting 8 for maglev tension. And if you don't know, maglev or spring tension controls the speed of the cube generally. So the higher the tension, the slower the cube, and the lower the tension, the faster the cube. This cube is currently on setting number 8 out of 12, and that's already nearing the upper range of tension settings for this cube. And the cube is already ridiculously fast. So this turned out not to be that much of a problem for me, but if you have a more aggressive turning style, maybe this cube is not exactly meant for you. Now, one thing I'd like to add on is that I tried the GAN16 that they had on display at GAN's offline flagship store in Shanghai. And that cube was completely bone dry. It was completely unlubed, probably because the lube has been completely dried out by the amount of solves, the amount of turning that people have done on that display cube. And on that completely dry cube, the turning was incredibly fast. And I'll put up a clip of me turning that cube right now. you can see that the turns are really fast. And that cube was on stock tensions as well, which was axis setting number 3 and tension number 8. So the cube does get really fast if you don't have adequate amounts of lube. Alrighty, so now let's go ahead and move on. The next thing that you'll see when you look into the center is that there is a small magnet underneath the GES. I'm not sure if the camera can pick this up, but there are magnet placements right here, 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 and here. And as you can see, that also corresponds to where the edge track meets the center. So there's also a small magnet embedded in the top of the edge track, right here, right here. And what this does is it interfaces this part of the edge with this part of the center. So that provides another form of contact between layers. So traditionally you have your standard piece-to-piece magnets, and this holds the layers together. However, when you're doing large corner cuts, these two pieces might sometimes get separated, and then that leaves you with a lack of stability. So instead of only having this corner as support for this edge, you also have this edge which is connected to the center, and that leaves more stability as well. This was not a unique magnet placement. This magnet placement was also available on some of MS cubes. I believe it was the MS3X, and that also achieved a similar effect. So now let's go ahead and talk about what I did to the cube. So the first thing that you'll feel when you turn this cube is a lot slower and more controllable. And that's the main thing. This cube is really fast. You can see that the speed is really fast. However, with this one, the speed is a lot more controllable. However, the lubes that I used in this cube were not that much slowing, so the cube still retains a really nice fast feel. And that suits me quite well since I have already a super light turning style, but even the original 16, especially without lube, was way too fast for me. The next thing that I did to this cube is I added the green magnets, and these magnets are actually stronger than the white magnets in the original cube. And what the stronger corner core magnet does is it increases the stability of the cube. Now the side effect of installing a stronger corner core magnet is that the auto align is also much more stronger, and sometimes having more auto align is not that great for controllability. So I increased the tension to 11, which is the second highest setting, and I also added lube, which slowed the cube down, and that also counteracted the increased auto align. Alrighty, so now let's go ahead and do some solves, and then I'll give my final conclusion. In conclusion, I would highly recommend this cube. If you were thinking of upgrading from the 12 or even the 11, this would definitely be a more compelling purchase than the GAN16 Maglev. The key features of this cube in summary are the updated magnet scheme, which increases stability, and also the center skirt, of course, which also increases stability, and it gives the cube a really nice rounded feel. So overall, I really recommend this cube. The price of this cube is $85 US outside of China. So if that price is not something that you are able to justify, I'd say wait for the normal 16, which should be around $60 or so, with some reduced features like maybe no UV coating or reduced magnet scheme. But that cube should still have the same piece design, and it should feel similar to the GAN16 Maglev MAX. If you're still on the fence about upgrading, I'd say go to a competition, try one of these cubes, and see if it's the right fit for you. Overall, if you enjoy nice and light cubes, and you enjoy the GAN's hard plastic, but you also like the Weilong's nice and rounded corner cutting feel, I highly recommend this cube. Alright, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a like, and go ahead and subscribe as well. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.